Deborah Murphy here, and we're at the Advancing Women Conference, and I'm joined by Kay Kuenker, a consultant, entrepreneur, and speaker today. Hello, Kay.
Hi there, Deborah.
So you started off talking about the world's challenge right now, and that is to provide safe, affordable, accessible food. What is the role of women in solving this problem?
I think two things. One, women are showing that every imaginable discipline or role in that can be filled by a woman, whether that's producers, as we see here in the audience, or finance or operations or R&D. So the many different disciplines that are all open to women. But the point I emphasized was that the skills that come naturally, those soft skills to women, are what are going to be critical to solving challenges that are so multifaceted, like feeding the world. Women naturally are collaborative, they're nurturing just because of family, they are willing to make compromise, which is often seen in families, and because of those types of innate skills that are required to reach collective compromise across the world, that's why I say that food and ag is a very ripe field, and this world challenge is a ripe field for women to participate in.
So with all those strengths, what's holding women back from leadership roles right now?
It's a great question, and there are many different answers out there. The reason I tried to hit on some of those concepts today about what happens when we lose confidence or we're afraid to speak up, that getting over some of those hurdles, I believe, is one of the critical things, not only for women to do those roles, but to enjoy doing those roles.
So tell us about your one tool. I found it really incredibly interesting, the SCARF model.
The SCARF model was coined by, and the notoriety goes to Dr. David Rock, who is the co-founder and director of the Neural Leadership Institute. And he's renowned for his years of research on how to get the best performance at work, and has developed this confluence of research between neuroscience, psychology, therapy, human health, all geared toward how can we combine the learnings that we know from all of these deep fields into helping improve thinking. Leaders improve their own thinking, and more importantly, finding ways to get the best collective thinking of everyone out on the table.
So what does it stand for?
SCARF stands for, it's an acronym, the letters are status, certainty, autonomy, fairness, and relatedness. And they're what Dr. Rock calls the 5 social domains of human existence. So every one of us in this room, no matter what the discipline, exists in those social domains.
So, and we might struggle in all of these social domains, or how does the model help us get through those struggles, I guess?
The first thing is to recognize what trips your trigger. So I just said that solving the world's problems is all about and depends on collaboration and working together. Well, if working together and interacting and is going to have in with it conflict, it's to recognize what trips your trigger. And so number one is recognizing. And number two is, once you recognize those tendencies in yourself and in others, I also talked about ways to mitigate that, both in the workplace and there are ways that, in any social setting that we have. So number one is noticing, knowing yourself, and then finding ways to, I have that tendency. What can I do about that? And set up a new habit, if you will.
Mm-hmm. So for our audience, if they're working cattle one day and their partner says something to them that frustrates them, how do they recognize which one of those letters is the problem, I guess?
Well, there likely isn't just one. These have a multiplier effect. So you can have many different triggers tripping. So whether that's, wait a second, my status and autonomy were just triggered. So number one is so they can work together, and they do have a multiplier effect. So one is to recognize, and then number two, just by recognizing that and going, that can be enough to shift your threat response from your limbic system to a more toward state.
What do you mean by toward state?
Well, the brain, the limbic system really filters, or the brain really filters any new information coming in an organizing principle. This is also well researched. An organizing principle is this thing going to be good for me? Should I go toward it Or is this thing going to hurt me? Do I need to run away from it? So given the brain's organizing principle like that, run away or go toward, that's what you're trying to make a shift from those things that threaten you to those that can get you more in a toward state. Why is that important? Because it's also showed that our cognitive abilities, those difficult executive functionings of our brain, decision making, understanding, memory, like RAM, inhibition, behavioral inhibitions, and recall, those are all functions of this cognitive resource that we have. And if that is diminished because we're under threat and all of our energies are going to survival, we don't have energies or capacity left to think rationally through a situation. So it behooves us to, when we're under threat, to try to find means like labeling, like, oh, geez, I've been scarfed, to a more toward state, which gives power back to our cognitive function.
And is that where the reappraising and mindfulness come in as well?
Yeah, so I talked about 3 different ways that can help to get us into a toward state. Labeling is the easiest, and geez, I've been scarfed would be one example. Or we talk about, I use the term hamster wheel when our wheels grind and grind and grind mentally, and we just ruminate on things. Just saying, oh, there's my hamster again. That little humorous label is enough often to trigger ourselves. Whoops, I'm doing it again. Let me stop that and let me do a new habit. So labeling is really powerful. Sometimes labeling isn't enough, which is where reappraisal or reframing a situation can have a better result, particularly when there's more than one scarf trigger involved. So, and that's simply looking at something from a different perspective. I gave the example on the plane last night and mad that we were stuck at the runway and couldn't get a ground crew. Well, that's one way to look at it. Another way is we made it safely. I'm still here tonight. I'm not flying in the morning. And it sounds like positive psychology, and part of it is, but it makes a neurochemical difference in your brain when you look at things from that reappraised situation.
And the mindfulness? And
mindfulness is a way, I would call it more of a chronic way, that we can all practice, because the research also shows, and I mentioned the researchers, if one practices mindfulness on a regular basis, you're over time learning to more you're more adept at emotional regulation. So when your triggers have been tripped, if you're not practiced at this, you have a tendency to blow up or to, I'm just going to bite my tongue. That's not the healthiest way, neither of those. The healthiest way is to really assess, and how do I emotionally regulate using one of these tools that will bring power back to my rational thinking, my cognitive process, so I can solve this with my best thinking forward.
Mm-hmm. Is it hard to do these things for the first time? Like, how do we make that step towards mindfulness? It sounds like a very scary term.
Well, as I said in my talk, I would do, if I had it to do again, I would build more of this in, and I am from this point forward, just because I've read and seen the profound impact that this can have. So I would say, to answer that, talk to somebody, do a little research. David Rock's got a fantastic book called Your Brain at Work, and it's a fantastic read for anybody that wants to just get it's more geared toward the workplace, but these concepts hold wherever you are in life.
Kay Kuenker, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Deborah, very much.